Hi, everyone. My name is Nathan Hall, and I am currently the manager of the Recruitment of Policy Leaders program, RPL for short, and I'm excited to introduce the program to you today. The Federal Public Service is constantly looking for new talent, expertise, and experience. In response to this, RPL aims to bring a diversity of skills, expertise, and professional experiences to the Canadian government. With respect to careers in the public service more generally, there are many good reasons to pursue a career in government. First, there is flexibility. The Federal Public Service is the largest employer in the country with over 300,000 employees. This means that there are various kinds of jobs and different files and portfolios that you can be a part of. And once you are in the government, it's easier to move around at level to explore those opportunities. For example, at the EC6 or equivalent level, at which I am currently employed, you can find people working as researchers or scientists running studies and designing experiments, or running programs like RPL, or contributing to the development of critical policies across various domains. Most recently, the government is focused on hiring in specific areas such as economic development, infrastructure, international trade, Crown Indigenous relations and Indigenous services, national security, defense, and technological innovation. So if you are currently working in any of these areas, you are especially likely to find a placement through the RPL program. And while the majority of policy leadership roles in the federal government are located in Ottawa, there are some opportunities in the regions, such as my own position that's located in Montreal. So, what is RPL specifically? The Recruitment of Policy Leaders program is the federal government's flagship annual recruitment campaign that has been running for over 20 years. It recognizes the unique academic, professional, and lived experiences of applicants and is therefore able to place candidates in higher level positions than similar recruitment programs. However, an important distinction between this RPL program and similar recruitment programs is that the RPL program is not a development program. Other postgraduate recruitment campaigns tend to bring in new recruits at the junior level, train them for 2 to 3 years, and then provide a guaranteed mid-level position at the end. In contrast, RPL recruits experts who are already having substantial experience into a pool where hiring managers can select them for direct placement into intermediate or senior level positions. To reiterate, there is no job-specific training associated with the program itself. However, as I will discuss in a moment, there are many fantastic networking and professional development opportunities that we do provide. Basically, RPL inverts the typical hiring process. Most of the time on jobs.gc.ca, you will find a position that is posted where they're trying to find the right candidate. Instead, RPL seeks out exceptional people first, then connects them with job opportunities that match their background, interests, and expertise. The starting level of each RPL candidate will depend on their unique combination of experiences, including whether they have significant experience managing teams, projects, budget, research, as well as their abilities in both official languages. So it's important to note that while being bilingual in English and French is not a requirement for RPL, it is an important aspect of career progression generally in the federal government. For example, all managers in the public service must be able to communicate in French and English. And this is why candidates apply to RPL. Our program provides a clear recognition of your talent and experience, allowing you to start at a more senior level than most other postgraduate recruitment programs. You can also apply to RPL at any point in your career, so if you don't make it the first time you try, just keep trying. What I found to be the best part of the program is our network. The RPL community is well known for being exceptionally supportive and extensive, with candidates who are external to government being immediately paired with a mentor to help you explore career options. Our mentors are an invaluable resource who invest considerable time and effort supporting candidates in strategizing and networking in their search for an optimal position. I encourage everyone who applies and makes it into the program to set up informational meetings with contacts from various departments who can help you learn about the various opportunities a government career in policy can provide. Importantly, again, if you're someone who's not been employed in the federal government, there are a lot of opportunities for at-level mobility. What I mean by that is there are many opportunities for government employees to move to different teams, different portfolios, and different departments at your level or maybe even higher. The RPL community also has regular social events and offers professional development activities to candidates and alumni, such as informational webinars or annual policy conference that are largely run by alumni volunteers. So what does a successful RPL candidate look like, and what happens when you make it into the pool? Well, RPLers come from all fields and backgrounds. For example, I was a psychology professor and university administrator for 15 years before transitioning to public service employment. And the two previous managers before me were an archaeologist and a specialist in space law, respectively. Although the federal government is currently focused on hiring in specific areas, including those ones I mentioned before, RPLers from various backgrounds are consistently being hired in these areas and others due to the transferable nature of their skills and expertise. Now, once you make it into the pool, you are qualified in the pool for approximately 2.5 years. This means that your profile goes up on the internal GCpedia page where hiring managers can learn your bio, learn about you, and approach you for potential job opportunities. The 2.5 years also means that you can wrap up your studies or current employment before transitioning into the federal public service. As I mentioned before, you will receive mentorship support to help identify the kinds of opportunities that might appeal to you, strategize how to market your abilities and experience to different teams, and to set up meetings with hiring managers across departments. These meetings are critical as they allow you to advocate for how your skills, experience, and expertise are relevant to a team's directives, or to get advice from hiring managers about other opportunities that might be a better fit. Getting into RPL does not mean a guaranteed job, so being open to exploring how your experience is relevant to areas that are hiring, but that you may not have previously considered, is critical. These conversations with various hiring managers across departments are perhaps the most effective way to learn just how valuable your skills and experience can be to improving the lives of Canadians. Okay, so we've covered the benefits of being in the federal public service as well as RPL. So let's pause for a minute to discuss RPL's eligibility requirements. To be eligible for the Recruitment of Policy Leaders program, there are 5 main things that you need. First, we are a postgraduate recruitment program, which means you need a master's degree or a PhD or a law degree plus an undergraduate degree in any discipline. Secondly, we want to know about your policy experience. This is experience that is relevant to public policy acquired through roles in NGOs, think tanks, government, academia, consulting, private sector, whatever. What matters most is that you demonstrate how that prior experience is relevant to policy and allowed you to gain an in-depth knowledge of policy issues, as well as to develop policy recommendations. One of the best pieces of advice that I heard when tackling this field is when you apply, you think about the times when you problem solve, because that is essentially what policy is about: defining a problem, researching to better understand it, and then developing potential pathways forward that consider the risks and mitigation measures for each option. Now, following from this, for this year's campaign, we have an additional new requirement where all applicants must explain how their expertise and experience relates to specific priority areas in which the federal government is currently hiring. These areas include artificial intelligence and technological innovation, border security, public safety and law enforcement, Crown Indigenous relations regarding resource development and northern affairs, defense and national security, economic growth and productivity, infrastructure and housing, as well as international trade, international investment, or internal trade, interprovincial trade. Candidates who can demonstrate that they have significant experience in at least one of these areas through a combination of education, training, employment, or volunteer activities are more likely to be screened in and move forward in the campaign, and are more likely to find a position once in the pool. You will also be asked to outline your leadership and initiative. You can, for example, provide evidence of leadership and service through extracurricular activities or volunteer initiatives in community or academic organizations. Or you can discuss instances where you made significant contributions to the well-being of others or overcame adversity to realize positive change or deliver results. For example, you can talk about overcoming a significant personal challenge or adversity to realize personal accomplishments. We will also ask you to tell us about your academic and research achievements. To get into RPL, you must have a record of significant achievements in academic or other research contexts. You can demonstrate this through scholarships and publications, or through non-academic contexts like the development of analyses, reports, research tools, data sets, IP, new technology, or products or innovations that have been used by other researchers, industry, communities, or the public, nonprofit, or Indigenous organizations. You'll notice on the right-hand side of the slide that there is a list of some competencies that are actually assessed throughout the different steps of the recruitment process. This list is not extensive, but includes some of the important knowledge and skills that we are looking for. Finally, it is important to note that all Canadians, permanent residents, and persons residing in Canada can apply. However, preference is given to veterans, followed by Canadian citizens and permanent residents. In the past, the RPL pool has been filled by Canadian citizens and permanent residents. You are still welcome to apply if you are a person residing in Canada, but let us know if your status changes. So what is actually involved in the application process, from clicking on Apply Now to being accepted into the pool? The steps in the evaluation process are similar to other Government of Canada processes in that you must submit an application, and if that application is successful, you move on to a written exam. If you pass the exam, we then invite you to an interview, and then success in the interview is followed by references and verifying your credentials. For the initial application, you will need to respond to the screening questions that we talked about on the previous slide. Policy relevant experience, particularly in federal priority areas, as well as leadership and initiative and research or academic achievement. You will also need to indicate if you have a postgraduate degree or will have one by December 2026. We ask you to highlight and clearly demonstrate to us how you meet each of these essential criteria. More information, including some examples, are posted on the application portal when you apply. The written exam will take place in the new year. There is information describing a typical exam format on our wiki page, but all information required to complete the assignment will be provided to candidates who are invited to write the exam. The RPL interview is actually quite unique and different from the usual government interview. The panel includes both alumni as well as senior executives in the Government of Canada. It is a dynamic pace where you can expect to discuss a broad array of policy issues and where your ideas will be challenged and questioned. If you pass the interview, references of successful candidates will be contacted to provide additional information on certain skills. The Government of Canada is committed to making the public service more reflective of the Canadian public that it serves. RPL is similarly taking steps toward helping to build a more equitable, diverse, and inclusive federal public service in the context of postgraduate recruitment. We encourage you to self-declare on your application if you belong to one or more employment equity groups, which includes Indigenous peoples, persons living with disabilities, members of racialized communities, and women. The federal public service appreciates the important perspectives and lived experiences that these underrepresented groups bring to policy leadership in Canada. It is also important to note that the self-declaration process is voluntary and confidential, and that it provides data that helps to remove barriers to employment. That being said, it is ultimately your decision on whether or not to self-identify. Also, do not hesitate to let us know if you need assessment accommodations. These help to remove obstacles from the selection process in order to help you succeed. You can request accommodations at any point, but we encourage you to be proactive and to get in touch as early as possible. In terms of employment equity, RPL is actively seeking applications from First Nations, Métis, and Inuit candidates, as well as persons living with a disability. To encourage and support applications from these groups, the 2025-26 RPL campaign has 3 application streams. The general stream that is open to everyone who is eligible to apply to RPL, the Indigenous stream, which is open to First Nations, Métis, and Inuit applicants, and the Persons with Disabilities stream, which is open to anyone who self-identifies as living with a disability. Applicants should only apply through one window. If you apply to more than one window, you will only be assessed once. To finish, I want to point out that RPL is very competitive. We receive over 2,000 applications every year and only about 1% successfully qualify. Applicants are encouraged to self-assess whether they would be a good fit for the program, to clearly explain how they meet each criteria, and provide the necessary information for screeners to be able to assess elements that they may not be familiar with. For example, if you received a specialized research grant or a very competitive scholarship that may not be well known outside your field or community, provide details on the granting body, the selection process, and the competitiveness of the award. Don't forget to also think about the impact of your experiences and how they relate to federal priority areas. Be sure to clearly outline this for reviewers. Now, if you'd like to learn more or just keep up with all things RPL, please be sure to visit our website, our social media pages, and our YouTube. I also highly recommend that you attend a Q&A session. In these sessions, RPL alumni will speak about their experiences going through the application process and answer any questions that you may have. This is a great way to connect with those who have successfully been through the process and can give you their best tips and tricks on how to succeed. There will also be sessions devoted to Indigenous candidates and persons with disabilities, hosted by panelists who came through those streams. In closing, I want to thank you for your interest in the RPL program and wish you all the best with your applications.